Hello friends, and welcome back to the Mothership. Today I'm going to show you how to cook a honey soy glazed beer can duck. Now I'll be honest with you guys, it's actually the following morning because I forgot to film my intro last night. Either way, I'm going to show you how to cook this while I have my coffee. So let's get started. Now this is a duck. What I have done is gotten it out of the freezer, defrosted it, taken out the giblets bag, and then cut off the excess skin that was around the throat and the neck. What I want to do here in preparation for this cook is really all about getting this skin so it crisps up as we cook it. What we want to do is get it nice and dry, pat it dry with paper towels all over, and then we are going to start pricking it. Now a meat tenderizer actually works really well for this application. Basically what we want to do is prick it all over to the point where it goes through the skin but not into the meat. If you don't have one of these, you could use a toothpick, you could use your probe on your meat thermometer, that would work. But basically we want to get the entire thing nice and poked so that the salt, when we apply it, goes through the skin and really allows it to dry out in the fridge and then when we actually smoke it. Now that I have poked the entire bird, I'm going to give it one more paper towel dry. And now what I'm going to do is just begin salting it. I want to get the entire exterior of this bird coated in salt. And then lastly, I'm going to take some of my salt and put it down into the cavity. That should help pull out some of the moisture as well and keep this nice and dried out for when we actually want to put on the smoker. With our duck nicely salted, I'm going to put it onto a wire rack over top of a tray or something to catch any drippings and put it into the fridge overnight until tomorrow when I actually want to begin smoking this bird. It is tomorrow and our duck has spent an entire night uncovered in the refrigerator. The skin is actually dried out pretty well. Now when you take it out of there, there might be some liquid pooling inside. Try to not get that onto the skin because we don't want any liquid onto the skin, but in general this looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is similar to how I do all of my chickens. I'm going to put this on a beer can. In this case it's going to be a cider can. Get it right in there. When I do chicken, I tend to put olive oil on at this point. I think I'm going to do that. I want as much of this to render and crisp up as possible, and I'm afraid that just the liquid in the beginning might hinder that. But I am going to give it a little bit of honey powder. This has got enough salt on it from the dry brine. And I'm going to be adding more sugar when we do our rub, but this might help jumpstart a little bit of that sweetness. Our duck is now on the smoker, and I have it running at about 200 degrees. I'm really just going to let it do its thing and sit at 200 degrees for quite a while. Probably when it gets to about 120, I'm going to start basting it down in butter. And then for that very end of the cook, once it gets to that 130, I'm going to take it out, bump the temperature up as high as I can, then put it back on to just finish crisping. But as far as we're concerned right now, we're just going to let it do its thing and keep monitoring it. As far as my wood choice, I'm going with fruit wood. I don't want anything overly harsh on this duck. And I think a fruit wood like a cherry or an apple is probably the best bet. Our little quacker is at 132 degrees at the thickest point. As you can see, I have started to baste it with butter. I put this butter on around, I don't know, when it was maybe at 110 degrees to let some of that water inside the butter start to evaporate out and clarify a bit. And then I've begun basting it down to get even more crispy skin once we bump the temperature up. I'm still planning on letting this go to about 145 degrees, and then I'm going to take it off, bump my smoker up to the highest possible temp, and then put it back on just to really crisp up. But at this point, we're just in a holding pattern, waiting to get to that 140, 145 degree mark. Our duck hit an internal temperature of 145, so I just pulled it off. To be honest, with the butter, you do have a decent amount of crisp here, but I'm pretty sure we could do better. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to bump the temperature up to like 450, get it really nice and crispy hot. Then we're going to throw this on, let everything really crisp up. And then once I take it off, we're just going to glaze it down with our soy honey glaze. Speaking of which, we should throw that together right now. For our glaze, I'm just going to do a 1/4 cup of soy sauce with approximately a 1/4 cup of honey. Then we just get it nice and mixed together. And then the trick with this honey is to keep it warm. So place it on top of your oven or whatever. Outside works, whatever. Just keep it kind of warm. That'll help the consistency to go onto our duck a little bit easier. About 8 minutes and 450 degrees, and our little quacker is done. We got a little bit of crispy skin on here. It's got a nice glaze to it. It looks fantastic. This is a beautiful looking roast duck, and I'm ready to bite into it. Now before we get into testing this, guys, this little quacker wants you to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Let me know what your thoughts are of this cook are, and if you're cooking something specific, or if you like any of my videos, or if you think I'm doing something terrible. Either way, comment, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. This took a couple hours to cook. Honestly, we probably could have cooked it at like 270, but I really wanted to get a decent amount of smoke flavor on here, so I cooked it low, and then obviously bumped it up to 450 at the very end. The glaze takes away a little bit of the crispiness, but it adds a little bit of that sweetness and some stickiness and more of that Asian flavor that we kind of want on here. All that being said, I'm starving. It's time to give it the chomp. Got a nice piece of skin and breast meat. Duck almost tastes decadent sometimes. I know it's a lot like chicken in many ways, but it's got that red meat flavor, and you got some sweetness to it, and it's just perfect. The skin is nice and crispy. It's nice and sweet. It's not too salty. It's a perfect duck. This can be used for whatever you want to cook for tonight, or just have it on the side, or you can take it, put it in the freezer, use it to make some of those steam buns that I have in one of my earlier videos. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Guys, if you've never cooked a duck before, you absolutely need to give it a try. It's a really interesting bird, and it's obviously cooks faster than a turkey, but it's different than a chicken, so it really mixes up your backyard barbecue routine. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I hope you guys cook something absolutely fantastic. And as always, let me know if you want to, but take it easy and I'll see you in the next cook.